Hi, so welcome back to my second tutorial. The first video that we did looked at the SolidWorks home screen, the different functions in the SolidWorks home screen, and moving on to how we open up a parts drawing and starting to look at the different features inside a parts drawing. This video is going to go into our parts drawing in a little bit more detail. So we're just going to open up a new parts drawing here. And we are going to start looking at how we use some of the basic tools in SolidWorks to create models and progress on from there to actually have a go at making a very basic model on the screen to get us started. Now, SolidWorks is laid out very nicely for us in the way that we have all our tabs across the top here, which allows us to be able to pick which part we want to design in. So whenever we want to start off designing, we're always going to start creating our shapes by sketching and creating sketches to make the profiles that we want. So in the sketch tab up the top here, we've got all of our different sketch tools that we can use. So we've got things like lines, rectangles, and we've got a variety of different types of each. It just helps us in the different ways we could draw them. Circles, we've got some polygons, splines, freeform shapes are great for using splines. Now, so these are just a variety of some of the drawing tools we've got at the top. Down the side of our screen, we have our planes. To be able to start any type of drawing, we need to first of all start on a plane. So for the sake of this, I'm going to start on the front plane. If I click on the front plane at the side here, and then in the sketch tools at the top, you've got sketch on the end here. If I just click on that sketch tool, that will orientate my face on my plane straight on, which is normal to the screen, and allow me to start drawing. You'll also notice down the side here in the design tree, we've got a little icon popped up which says Sketch 1. Now that's there for our history, so that when we're creating drawings at any point, we can go back to any part of our model or our drawing and be able to edit or alter them. So this is just going to record the processes that I carry out. So we've got our front plane and we've got these two little red arrows in the middle. The point in which these meet are called our origin. So this is the origin of the page or the screen. From that origin, I'm going to start off by drawing a shape. Now, you can draw this with lines, rectangles, but I'm going to start off with a very basic shape to start off with. So I'm going to start with lines, just so we can get used to the way that this works. If I click on the line tool at the top, come down to the center, and I'm going to start from the origin. Now, the origin, if I start from the origin with any drawing, it just means that I've got my drawing locked to a location, which helps me when I start to add sizes, dimensions, and defining the drawing later on. So first of all, I'm always going to start from my origin. It's good practice. So I'm just going to start off creating a square. Now you'll see as I draw straight up, there is a little yellow relationship icon coming up next to my line, and it's just a vertical line. Now that's saying that I'm drawing a vertical line. If I move off the vertical, it disappears. If I move back onto it, it comes back. That's just to let me know that I am drawing a perfectly vertical line. So I'll just draw up, drop that in. And then I get some guidelines. The yellow lines are my guidelines. So if I want to draw vertically across my page, from that point, I can follow these guidelines. And I'm going to go across horizontally across my page. And you'll see again, the little yellow box comes up showing me that I'm going horizontal across my page. And I'm just going to follow them guidelines until I come round. And you'll see now as I get to a point where I'm able to join them lines up, I had a relationship line between the two. And I'm just going to pop in a final line to finish that off. Okay. Now, at this point, I have four different lines. Two of them are black and two of them are blue. All that's showing me is two of them are defined or fixed to a point. The other two are free moving. So if I click on this point at the top, I could drag this around. That means they have no defined size, but it does show that this bottom corner is fixed to that origin. Now, what I can do is I can define the sizes on this by adding dimensions. So if I go up to the dimensions tool in the top left hand corner, click on the dimensions tool, I'm going to click on one side and add a dimension to that. So I can type in whatever dimension I want. I'm going to put in 100 just to start off with. Now my units I've automatically set to millimeters, and that is the default depending on where you're watching this from. If you work in millimeters and want to work in millimeters, the best way to go around setting your units is if you drop down to the bottom of the screen here, click on that MMGS icon, and it will give you the different measurements you can work in. Millimeters, grams, seconds are standard units. So is the units that I'm going to be working in for this. Now, I've got one side dimensioned, and that is just defined the two others. So I've now got three lines black on this and one line blue. To define that final line, it wants to know the distance away from the origin I am. So if I dimension that line at the side, at the bottom there, I will be able to get the distance. And again, I'm just going to turn that into a square, so 100 millimeters along as well. And that has now fully defined that shape as a drawing. And you'll see it down at the bottom of the screen here, it says fully defined. If that says underdefined, then my drawing will still move around. It's not fully defined. It's important that we fully define our drawings because of the way SolidWorks works. SolidWorks is what we call a parametric modeling software. What that means is that if we were to create drawings and dimension them up, and we have interlinking components, and we need to change the size on a component after we've made them or modeled them, all of the other sizes would change with it. So if there are dimensions set to them, it will support in keeping the model to the correct shape. So once we've got to that point, what we have there is just a square drawn out. Now, that's just using our line tool here. There are a couple of different ways we could have gone about that. We could have used the rectangle tool and create the square using the rectangle tool. But from here, what I want to do is turn this 2D shape into a 3D shape as well. So if I go to features at the side, so my features tab at the side, I can click on that. And I now have some 3D features available. So the first one is an extrude boss base, our second one is a revolve boss base, and the third one is a sweep boss base. Now, what I want to do is bring this 2D shape into a 3D profile. So I'm effectively going to drag it out. And the way I'm going to do that is using the extrude tool. I'm going to extrude it from the screen. So click on the extrude tool. Now, because I just have a sketch, what I can do is there's a couple of ways I can go about extruding this. I can grab the arrow in the middle of the component and pull it, and that will allow me to extrude it out. The other way, if I want to be a little bit more precise, because that can be a bit fiddly at times, is to type in the specific value that I want. So I'm going to come out 100 millimeters, and I'm just going to enter that there. Okay. Now, what it's done is it's set that extrusion coming out from that 2D sketch, 100 millimeters. So I'm just going to tick on the box at the top, the OK there, and that will turn it into a 3D shape. With that 3D shape now, I can move it around the screen. If I click down on the roller on my mouse, that will allow me to rotate the component around to see it in different views. I can see it from the different sides. Okay. I can zoom in and out of that component using the roller on the screen, and I can also, using the space bar on my keyboard, I can flick between the sides. So if I want to see one particular side, I can flick between them. Now, if I also use the space bar, I can set up so that I can have a view selector as a quick selection on my keyboard. So if I now press space, it will come up as a view selector, and I can manipulate that round. And if I click on any of them sides, it will automatically make me normal to that face. In other words, bring that face straight on the screen. Okay, so now we've had a go at creating a very simple shape. We're going to manipulate this a little bit. You'll see down the side of the screen here that my design tree is extended, so I've got my extrude down the side. If I click the little down arrow below next to that, I will bring up the sketch that's related to that. So you'll see there down at the bottom, we have the sketch that was originally created from. It just means that if I right click on these and go to edit, I can go back and edit them at any point, and just come back out of that. And I can do the same with the extrude. Right click on the extrude and edit feature, and it will allow me to edit that extrude. With them down the design tree, it doesn't matter how many components or how many parts of this model that I've made, I can go back to any single component of it and modify it at any point. Now, within this here as well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to manipulate the shape a little bit further. So I want to remove some material from this shape. Because we now have a 3D model, we can now actually select the faces of the model and treat them as planes. So where we first start our component, we had to start drawing on one of our 3 planes. I now have all the different faces of this component as well that I can use as a plane. However, it must be a flat face. It cannot be a curved surface. It won't allow me to draw onto curved surfaces. So if I select that face of my cube, I can go to sketch and create a sketch on that face. And this time I'm going to take the circle tool. So I'm going to go across to my circle tool there, and I am going to create a circle in the middle of that face. Now at the moment my circle is not in the middle. I've just plunked it somewhere on that face. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to centralize that using dimensions. So if I click the dimension tool there, I can click on the center of my circle, and I can click to the outer edge of the shape, and it will pick up the dimension there for me. So I'm going to turn that into 50, knowing that my halfway point's 50, and I'm going to do the same from there, from the center of the circle down to the bottom of my component, and again make that 50. What that will do is it will just center up that circle for me into the middle of the component. Through doing that, I can set the size that I want my circle to be. So let's say I'm going to make the circle 50 millimeters. So I've got a circle going through there at 50 millimeters as well. Now I've created that circle, I'm going to turn that into a hole all the way through. So I've got a hole all the way through that shape. And I can do that by going to Features, Extrude Cut. And from my Extrude Cut, I can take that all the way through my component and out of the other side. So what that's done is just taken it all the way through based on the sizes that were originally in. So if I just go back in to edit that so I can show you in a bit more detail, we there have our 100 millimeters because our last extrude was set at 100 millimeters. Now that's going blind through the component, so I can either do it blind or I can just click through all and it would extrude it straight through the whole of that shape if I want it to go all the way through. If I only wanted it to go a specific distance, I'd choose blind and set the distance that I wanted it to go through. But I'm happy with that going all the way through, so I'm just going to tick and leave it there. So what I've got now is one hole going through a solid shape. Okay, so that's just to give you an idea of some of the tools using the basic sketch and the basic features command. What we're going to do next time is going to start looking at how we can use some of our more advanced tools, such as our fillets and sweeps and revolves, to start extending the complexity of the models that we can create. Have a practice. Hope this goes well for you, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for listening.